$1,000. That's what the median working age American has saved for retirement. Not 100,000, not 10,000, $1,000, sitting between millions of hardworking people and genuine financial disaster when the paychecks finally stop. Does that sound like something trickled down to you? 45 years ago, a story started making the rounds in America. Maybe not in your neighborhood, but in the rooms where economic policy gets made. The story went like this: give the people at the very top a little more room to breathe, cut their taxes, free up their capital, get out of their way, and the growth that follows will lift everybody up. Something will find its way down to the working people. The tide rises, all the boats go up. It was a compelling story. It still is. There's just one small problem with it, and you're living it. We're going to get into all of it today: where this idea came from, what it actually produced, and most importantly, what you can do about it. Stay with us until the end, because the last part is the whole point. To understand why trickle-down economics has survived for as long as it has, you have to understand the genuine appeal of the idea. The pitch is clean. Lower taxes on corporations and the wealthy to free up capital. That capital gets reinvested. Businesses grow, jobs get created, wages rise, and the prosperity spreads outward and downward from the top. Give those at the top a little more, and the rest of us benefit too. Sounds reasonable, right up until you look at what actually happened. Here's an eyebrow-raising story most people have never heard before. In 1981, just as the era's landmark tax cuts were taking hold, one of their chief architects sat down for a series of candid conversations with a journalist for the Atlantic Monthly. And across those conversations, he said something remarkable. He said the quiet part out loud and told the truth. He admitted that supply-side economics was, in his own words, trickle-down theory. He called it a Trojan horse, a way to get tax cuts for the wealthy packaged in language that ordinary, everyday working people would accept. He said it was, quote, kind of hard to sell trickle-down. So what did they do? They rebranded it, called it something more palatable, and the country bought it. But here's what's really surprising about all of this. None of it was new, even in 1981. Someone had already seen exactly where this kind of thinking would lead nearly 50 years earlier. In 1932, during one of the lowest points of the Great Depression, as the government poured relief money into banks and wealthy institutions while ordinary Americans stood in breadlines, Will Rogers wrote something that still feels remarkably relevant today. Rogers was a cowboy philosopher and humorist from Oklahoma, with a nationally syndicated newspaper column, a radio show, and a gift for saying out loud the things everyone else was tiptoeing around. Watching what was happening around him, he wrote this: the money was all appropriated for the top, in the hopes that it would trickle down to the needy. Mr. Hoover was an engineer. He knew that water trickles down. Put it uphill and let it go, and it will reach the driest little spot. But he didn't know that money trickled up. Give it to the people at the bottom, and the people at the top will have it before night anyhow, but it will at least have passed through the poor fellow's hands. He meant it as a joke, a sardonic observation from a comedian who couldn't believe what he was watching. Nearly 100 years later, it reads less like a joke and more like a prophecy. Economists have a name for what's happened to the American economy. They call it K-shaped, and once you see it everywhere. After the pandemic hit in 2020, the economy didn't recover the way most people expected. Together, evenly, one country moving in the same direction. Instead, it split. The upper arm of the K went up fast. Stock markets soared. Real estate climbed. People who already owned assets watched their net worth grow at a pace most working Americans can barely imagine. The lower arm went the other way. Wages stagnated. Housing slipped out of reach for millions of people who were one paycheck away from a down payment. Groceries cost more. Energy cost more. And wages for the majority of American workers just didn't keep up. The top 10% of earners now account for nearly half of all consumer spending in the U.S., a record, the highest it's been in the entire history of the data. The next 10% are holding their own, but just barely. In the bottom 80%, their spending hasn't kept pace with inflation for 6 years running. 6 years of falling behind. While the economy technically kept growing, Because when the top 10% spend enough, the headline numbers look just fine. The distress of everyone else stays invisible, right up until it doesn't. Now let's talk about what the money at the top is actually doing with itself, because it is doing something. It's moving, growing, compounding, just not in the direction of the average American family's kitchen table. The global super yacht market is worth over $21 billion and climbing. Private space tourism, funded almost entirely by the ultra-wealthy, is projected to hit $13 billion by 2030. Ultra-luxury real estate, fifth homes, sixth homes, private islands, is booming. The top 1% now hold nearly 32% of all U.S. wealth, roughly as much as the entire bottom 90% combined. And here's where the two arms of the K collide, and it is never a gentle collision. The same billionaires spending on yachts and rockets and private islands have shown over and over that when a bottom line needs trimming, the workers they employ are the first thing on the chopping block. Never the yacht, never the space venture. In 2025, layoffs ran more than 50% higher than the year before, while those same companies reported record profits and paid out record executive bonuses. Profits go up, workers go home. But here's the number that settles the argument, the one that cuts through every economic theory and political talking point and just tells the plain truth. In 1980, right around the time trickle-down economics became the reigning philosophy of American policy, there were 13 billionaires in this country. 13 people worth $1 billion or more. Today, there are more than 900. In the same 45 years during which working Americans were told that cutting taxes at the top would grow their wages, build their savings, and improve their lives, the billionaire population in this country grew by over 6,000%. The evidence couldn't be clearer. The wealth didn't trickle down. It rocketed straight up, and it has been doing exactly that for nearly half a century. A quick pause. If this is hitting close to home for you, click the subscribe button and share this video with someone who needs to see it. This channel runs on people passing it along, and we genuinely appreciate you and your support. Now let's get back to the video. Here's the part of the story that deserves a lot more attention than it's getting. The real issue isn't just that a few people are getting incredibly rich, it's that the system they're using to grow that wealth is the same one that's quietly draining yours. In 2025, a record 6% of Americans with 401k plans made hardship withdrawals. Not as a strategy, not as a smart financial move. The top two reasons people gave were avoiding eviction and paying medical bills. That's triple the pre-pandemic rate, and it's gone up every single year for 6 years straight. Credit card delinquencies hit a 13-year high. Consumer prices are up about 25% since 2020. Wages for most working Americans haven't come close to closing that gap. So people are doing the only thing they have left, borrowing against tomorrow to survive today, draining the retirement accounts they spent years building, losing not just the dollars they take out, but every dollar those dollars would have become over the next 2 decades. The compound interest math on an early withdrawal is brutal. It is a tax on desperation. One economist described the American economy right now as a house sitting on a handful of poles. The front looks fine, but strip away the headline numbers, strip away the spending of the top 10% that's been propping everything up, and the foundation isn't broad. It isn't deep. It's a tiny group of very wealthy people spending enough to make the aggregate data look stable, while the bottom 80% quietly falls further behind. That kind of imbalance doesn't last forever. The chickens do eventually come home to roost. And when this one corrects, the people at the bottom of the K won't have a safety net waiting. They already used it. If all of this feels heavy to you, that's good because it should. But here's the good news. Once you see how the machine works, you can finally stop feeding it. To do that, you will first need to face the reality of a brutally harsh but honest truth. Nobody is coming to save you. Not from above. Not through a tax policy written in a room you'll never be invited into. Not through a promise delivered at a podium by someone whose financial advisors have financial advisors. The money is not going to trickle down. Will Rogers saw that in 1932. The data has confirmed it every decade since. And the people who benefit from the current arrangement have every reason in the world to keep asking you to wait just a little longer. But this is no time to wait. This is the time to get strategic and take action. Because here's what the people at the top of the K have always understood about money, and what most working Americans were never taught. Income is not wealth. Your paycheck is the raw material, not the destination. The difference between people who end up financially secure and people who spend 40 years on the treadmill isn't usually how much they earned. It's what they did with it. Whether they let every dollar flow straight out through expenses and interest payments, or whether they redirected some of it into things that grow. The wealthy own assets that work while they sleep: stocks, real estate, businesses that generate income whether or not anyone shows up in the morning. That's the game, and it is not a game reserved for people who were born with a head start. So let's be specific about what this actually looks like. First, consumer debt is the single most efficient machine ever built for moving money from the bottom of the K straight to the top. Every dollar you pay in credit card interest is a dollar that was yours and is now a bank's. Eliminating it aggressively before almost anything else isn't just good personal finance. It's the most direct way to stop the upward flow and point that money back towards your own future. The interest you stop paying is the raise you never got. Second, when the debt is gone, take the money that was going to minimum payments and redirect it. Even a modest monthly investment made consistently over time builds into something real, not glamorous, not fast, but reliable, the way actual lasting wealth has always been built. Third, own things that grow and appreciate. If you rent everything and own nothing, you spend your life funding other people's assets. A home bought within your means builds equity while you live in it. Index funds give you fractional ownership in hundreds of companies at once. Even a small income stream that belongs to you, that you own outright, rather than hours you trade once and they're gone, begins to shift the equation. Will Rogers was right. Money trickles up. It has a 100-year track record of doing exactly that. But here's what Rogers couldn't have written about in 1932, because the tools didn't exist yet. Today, ordinary people have access to retirement accounts, index funds, automated savings, and compound interest working in their direction. The gap between the top and bottom of the K is real. The system's tilt is real. But also real is the ability of a regular person with a regular income making deliberate decisions consistently over time to build something the system was never going to hand them. Nobody is coming to save you. Say that out loud if you need to, not as a reason for despair, but as the clearest, most motivating truth in personal finance, because it means the next move belongs entirely to you. Remember how this video started? The median working age American has just $1,000 saved for retirement. You can't control Washington. You can't control what billionaires do. You can't control tax policy, but you can decide that your story ends differently. Stop waiting for something to trickle down. Build your own. If this video helped you see things a little differently, please take a moment to subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And let us know your thoughts in the comments. We read every one of them. If you want to keep building your financial knowledge, click the video that's on your screen right now. I think it's the perfect follow-up to what we talked about today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.